Imagine you're a parent, but every time you punish your child, they repay you with something dark, something unsettling, something that makes you question whether discipline is even worth it. That was the reality of Mr. and Mrs. Silver, a living reminder that truly sparing the rod would definitely spoil the child. So, get yourself a cup of tea because it's about to go down. Mr. and Mrs. Silver got married at an age when their peers were still trying to figure out what love even meant. Mr. Silver was just 24, still with the freshness of youth on his face. Mrs. Silver was 23, a soft-spoken beauty with sharp ambitions. They had grown up privileged, nepo babies, with smooth paths laid before them. But unlike many, they were smart, focused, and graduated university early. Together, they built a life that looked perfect from the outside. In their first apartment, Mrs. Silver would laugh as she braided her husband's hair to help him distress while he teased. "One day, you will open your own salon and forget all about me." She would always reply, "Never. You will be my first customer forever." And he would grin, tilting her chin playfully. Things truly were good for the newlyweds. Mr. Silver became his company dependable tech guy, the one person who everyone ran to whenever the system misbehaved. Mrs. Silver built her own thriving beauty salon. Bright lights, soft music, the sweet smell of hair creams, and customers constantly buzzing in and out. Life was gentle, life was full, and when God finally blessed them with little tam-tam, their joy overflowed. The moment they held her, everything changed. Mrs. Silver cried softly in the hospital bed, stroking the tiny fingers coiled around hers. Mr. Silver hovered beside them, his voice thick with emotion as he whispered, "She's perfect, our little tam-tam." They brought her home wrapped in soft blankets, the house filled with the scent of baby powder, new beginnings, and their excitement. Everyone gushed over how beautiful she was. Her light brown eyes, gifted from her grandmother, sparkled like framed honey under the sun, and her skin, it glowed. A luminous, pampered glow that testified to how carefully her mother had carried her in the womb. As soon as Tam Tam could crawl, she became a tiny explorer with a dangerous curiosity. Mrs. Silver would turn her back for 1 second in the kitchen, only to hear clatter. Tam Tam had crawled in again, pushing down whatever her tiny hands reached, pots, cups, even a full bag of rice. Tam Tam, stop now!" Mrs. Silver would scold gently, trying to take the items away. The baby only blinked innocently. It felt normal at first. Babies touched everything. Babies were curious, right? That illusion shattered when she took her first steps. Barely steady on her feet, Tam Tam wandered into the neighbor's apartment. Before anyone could grab her, she leaned down and beat their dog, an old harmless thing that barely barked. The startled dog growled, a reflex. Immediately, Tam Tam wailed, loud, piercing, dramatic. Tears poured like a waterfall, and she pointed at the dog as if it had attacked her. Neighbors rushed out. Mrs. Silver scooped her up, panicked. "What happened? What happened?" The neighbor, still shocked, said, "I don't know." Mrs. Silver's lips parted. "Are you okay, baby?" But Tam Tam buried her head in her mother's neck, sobbing pitifully. When Tam Tam began speaking clearly, things grew sharper. Auntie Dupe, Mrs. Silver's sister, visited one weekend, carrying gifts. "Tam Tam, come and see what Auntie brought for you," she said warmly. Tam Tam walked up, stared straight at her face, pointed at her button nose and said plainly, "You are ugly." The room went silent. Auntie Dupe blinked, wounded. Mrs. Silver gasped. Mr. Silver muttered, "Tam Tam!" But the little girl simply turned away, as if she had said nothing wrong. Neighbors warned softly over time, "Caution this child. Her spirit is too strong. Watch her closely." But Mr. and Mrs. Silver only smiled politely. "She's just a child," they would say. "Children are angels." One day, when Tam Tam was 7, they were driving out to school as they passed a small kiosk a few blocks away. She suddenly shouted, "Stop! I want biscuits!" Mr. Silver sighed but backed. Anything to avoid a tantrum before school. They walked towards the kiosk. The shop owner, a pleasant older woman with laugh lines around her eyes, smiled and bent to Tam Tam's level. "Ha! Fine girl," she greeted cheerfully. "What do you want to buy?" Before the woman could finish her sentence, Tam Tam raised her tiny hand, still holding her water bottle, and slammed it across the woman's face. The smack echoed. The woman staggered back, gripping her cheek. "Yeah!" My face, my face! What did I do? She cried, voice trembling. Tam Tam didn't flinch. In fact, she laughed. A short, sharp laugh. But when she noticed her parents weren't laughing with her, she immediately switched. Her face crumbled into a fake cry and she pointed at the woman. Her mouth is smelling, she cried dramatically. Mr. and Mrs. Silver froze in humiliation. Their hearts hammered. Anger, shame, fear. They couldn't even tell which emotion hit first. Oh my God, we are so sorry, Mrs. Silver said. Rushing forward, Mr. Silver pulled out money with shaking hands. A whole bundle. Please, take this for treatment, ma. We're very, very sorry. They grabbed Tam Tam and left quickly, faces burning with embarrassment. They never went back to that shop again. Soon, Tam Tam was a teenager, 13 and more beautiful than ever. She was tall, graceful with the same glowing skin and striking eyes that made strangers compliment her unprovoked. But that beauty came with an attitude that grew sharper by the day. One Sunday morning, Mrs. Silver entered her daughter's room with her usual gentle knock. She had grown up as a pastor's daughter, so church was not optional in her home, and it clearly wasn't optional now. She put the curtains open, sunlight washed into the room. Tam Tam, wake up, it's time to prepare for church. Tam Tam didn't move at first, then she turned slowly, her expression tired and uninterested. Mom, I'm not going to church today. Mrs. Silver froze. For a moment, she thought she misheard. What did you say? Tam Tam sat up, folding her arms defiantly. I said I'm not going. I don't like that church. They will force me to sit in the children's department with those dirty children, she sucked, wrinkling her nose. I want to sit in the adult section. If not, I won't go. Mrs. Silver felt it rush in her chest. Are you hearing yourself? Why would you not go to church? It's the one day set aside to fellowship with other Christians. Tam Tam rolled her eyes dramatically. Then, let me sit with the adults. Before Mrs. Silver could respond, Mr. Silver walked in, adjusting his shirt. What's going on here? His wife gestured at their daughter. She says she's not going to church. His brow tightened. You're going, he said firmly. Tam Tam let out a long sigh, long enough to show her displeasure. But she stood up anyways, reluctantly, slowly. But what her parents didn't know was that Tam Tam had already prepared for this exact argument. Earlier that morning, before the sun even rose, she had slipped away in her pajamas. She went straight to the car, her father's favorite. She noticed that part they opened near the fuel tank, and she remembered. So, she twisted it open and poured in a full liter of Coca-Cola soda, watching the dark fizzy liquid disappear inside. She wiped the opening with a cloth and left quietly. Now, as her parents hurried into the car, she stood by with a perfectly neutral expression. Mr. Silver inserted the key. Click. Nothing. He tried again. Click, click. The engine refused to respond. Mr. Silver frowned deeply. What is this? I serviced this car just yesterday. Mrs. Silver gasped softly. Are you serious? All the cars were sent to the mechanic on Saturday. Mr. Silver rubbed his forehead. Yes, and I waited till late to collect this one. Because of church this morning, they tried again. Nothing. Behind them, standing with her hands collapsed, Tam Tam, allowing a small smile to slip across her lips. She had won. There would be no church today. Later in the evening, the mechanic arrived to drop off the other cars. As he had finished servicing, out of courtesy, he bent to check the 41 too. Just a routine glance. He opened the fuel compartment, sniffed, frowned, then used the siphon to pull out the contents. As the liquid streamed into a transparent container, his eyes widened. Oga, Madam, he said slowly, turning to them. This tank don't spoil. Something enter inside. This is cola. Mrs. Silver's hands flew to her chest. Mr. Silver stared at the blackish-brown liquid speechless. And when they both turned slowly towards their daughter, Tam Tam stood there, arms folded, wearing the most unmistakable smug expression. Her eyes said everything. You forced me, now see what you get. Their hearts dropped. Because in that moment, they finally understood. She did it and she wasn't sorry. Not even a little. For the first time in their daughter's life, Tam Tam was going to be punished. Not a warning, not a scolding, a real punishment. Mr. Silver announced it during dinner, his voice stern but shaking slightly with frustration. For 1 month, he said, staring directly at her. No money for lunch. Mrs. Silver added, you will eat only the food you cook at home. If you refuse, you will starve. Tam Tam froze, a spoon hovered above her plate. Her face tightened ever so slightly, but she said nothing. The next few days at school were strange. Tam Tam ate her packed lunch slowly, picking at the food like it offended her spirits. At the school kiosk where she normally bought snacks, she walked past with a stiff neck. At the canteen where she used to eat jollof rice and chicken daily, she didn't step in once. Her friends watched her, They whispered, and finally during lunch one day, while Tam Tam sat poking at her rice with a depressed expression, her best friend Nancy leaned closer. Tam Tam, she whispered, I've noticed you haven't been buying snacks. You only eat your lunchbox now, and you don't talk as much anymore. What's wrong? Tam Tam looked up as if she had been waiting for that question. She sighed deeply, dramatically. Things have been difficult for my family. Nancy's eyes widened. Tam Tam continued, lowering her voice to a painful whisper. I didn't want to say anything, but my parents lost their jobs months ago. Nancy gasped softly. What? Tam Tam nodded sadly. And their businesses collapsed too. Spiritual problems. Nancy covered her mouth. Tam Tam's voice trembled. My father had borrowed and borrowed. Now we may lose our house. Nancy felt tears sting her eyes. Her best friend, the wealthy Sivas, bankrupt, and Tam Tam wasn't done. She leaned in, looking left and right to make sure no one was listening. Don't tell anyone, she whispered. But they aren't my real parents. Nancy blinked rapidly. What? They adopted me, Tam Tam said, her expression perfectly wounded. My adopted mother lost her womb from an abortion she did when she was 16. After a rape incident, Nancy choked on air. Jesus Christ, Tam Tam! Tam Tam wiped an imaginary tear. But later, after that conversation, something changed in her. She no longer frowned at her packed lunch. She ate with a small knowing smile, a smile of someone who had struck back and whose victims didn't even know it yet. It didn't take long. Soon, the entire class was whispering, Tam Tam's family is suffering. They are in debt. They might lose their house. They adopted her. And amongst those whispering was Florence, the principal's daughter, also one of Tam Tam's friends. Nancy had spilled everything. One evening after dinner, Florence walked into the sitting room where her mother, the principal, was sorting papers. Mommy, she began softly. The principal looked up. Yes, dear, Florence swallowed. Let's start a GoFund for Tam Tam's family. The principal froze mid-breath. What? Which Tam Tam? My friend, the Silver's daughter, she said her parents lost their job and they are suffering. The principal stared at her daughter, stunned beyond words. Everyone knew the Silver family was wealthy. Mr. Silver was the PTA chairman. He had influence, money, and status in the school. But Florence looked dead serious. The principal exhaled slowly, as Florence told her everything she had heard in school, and decisions were made. A PTA meeting was scheduled to hold 2 days later. A team was immediately selected. Help Mr. Silver's family. Mr. and Mrs. Silver were clueless. During dinner that night, both their phones buzzed. A notification. Urgent PTA meeting in 2 days. All parents must attend. Mr. Silver read it aloud, then looked at his daughter. I'll be coming to school with you on Friday, he said firmly. Tam Tam shrugged, chewing calmly. She had no idea how confident that spilled. On Friday morning, Mr. and Mrs. Silver drove a cheerful, bouncing Tam Tam to school. She had been in her best behavior for days, so they slipped her a 1,000 naira note for lunch. Thank you, Dad. Thank you, Mom, she said, skipping off into her classroom. She had no clue, not yet. At the PTA gathering, Mr. Silver, as the chairman, stood up first. He prayed, he greeted everyone warmly. Then, he handed the mic to the principal. She adjusted her glasses, cleared her throat and began. I know this meeting is impromptu, and I thank you all for being present. Parents murmured in agreement. This meeting is for one of us here today. She paused. A child is struggling. The hall became silent. The child's parents have lost their jobs. They are deep in debt. They barely eat 2 square meals. Mr. and Mrs. Silver nodded sympathetically, like everyone else, wondering which family was being discussed. And even their adopted daughter has been sad. Adopted? Mr. Silver frowned slightly but kept nodding. As we all know, the principal continued, these things affect children the most. Still, the Silvers nodded until the principal walked towards Mr. Silver, placed a comforting hand on his shoulder, looked at him with pity and said, Everything will be fine, Mr. Silver. We won't let you struggle alone. Mr. Silver chair shook under him. He nearly stood up out of shock. What do you mean? He asked, confused. The principal blinked, surprised he was even asking. Your daughter Tam Tam told us everything. Mrs. Silver screamed, What? Chaos erupted. Parents gasped. Teachers exchanged looks. Mr. Silver stood up abruptly, sweating, embarrassed. Tam Tam was still in class, somewhere on the other side of the school, oblivious to the wildfire she had started. Thank you so much for watching to this point, friends. I really hope you enjoyed the story as much as I enjoyed making it. Please tell me in the comments what you've learned from this story and what you think Mr. and Mrs. Silva should do next. Because for me, I believe Tam Tam has done a lot. Bye!